On September 3, 2018, a local Webb County rancher from Laredo, Texas, discovered a dead body on Jeffries Road, off of Highway 255. The body was in plain sight on the side of the road and had multiple gunshots to the head. It was later determined to be the body of 29-year-old Melissa Ramirez, a sex worker and a mother of two. The day Melissa was killed, her mother went down to San Bernardo Avenue, where sex workers often spend their time. She asked someone named Claudine Loera if she had seen her daughter, but to no avail. 10 days later, on September 13, 2018, another body was discovered on the outskirts of town, once again on the side of the road, with multiple gunshot wounds to the head. It was the body of Claudine Loera. Claudine was a single mother of 5. She had struggled to find a path in life and became heavily addicted to drugs, which fed her depression and guilt. She resorted to sex work in order to provide for her family. Claudine recognized the extent of her drug abuse and even confided in her mother about it just weeks before her murder. Tragically, any hopes of her turning her life around were shattered by a heartless killer. One day after Claudine's body was found, a distressed woman, topless, ran up to a Texas trooper at a gas station, claiming that she had just been attacked and that she knew where her attacker lived. It was 26-year-old Erica Pena. She said that her attacker was a prior customer named David, who had brought her to his house. Aware that David was a Border Patrol agent, Erica asked him if he knew anything about her friend Melissa Ramirez. Following this question, Erica said that his behavior transitioned, raising her suspicions. On the way to Bernardo Avenue, where he was dropping her off, she asked once more about Melissa, at which point David allegedly snapped and pulled out a gun. She panicked and exited the vehicle immediately, her attacker ripping off her blouse in the process. Erica Pena was the only victim to escape this killer. Law enforcement immediately went to the attacker's home, but he was already gone, so a manhunt ensued. Police swiftly issued a be on the lookout, known as a BOLO, for 35-year-old Juan David Ortiz, a father, husband, and former U.S. Navy medical technician who was employed as an intelligence supervisor for the U.S. Customs and Border Protection. A few hours later, they located Juan at a gas station after noticing his truck and confronted him.
Turn around! Turn around! Turn around! Turn around!
Stop right there! Stop! 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 Is this your truck? Is this your truck? Okay, alright. Turn around! Turn around!
Get on your knees!
Turn around, I'll explain to you right now. Turn around! Okay, I'm gonna explain to you. Okay, Bradshaw, I'm gonna do the talking. Alright, sir, we got a positive ID with some... This truck right here is matching with the potential, with the murders that's been happening within the past 2 weeks. We want to do an interview. We want to do some questioning. We just need for you to cooperate with us, okay? All right, fine. Make my way. Just turn around and make my way this way, okay? Turn around. Just turn around. Turn around, please. Turn around. Hey, 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 hey. He's in here, bro. Yeah.
David Ortiz! Come out! State police!
After running from the police, Juan was eventually located and apprehended following a short pursuit. He was placed under arrest and transported back to the police station before taking part in an interrogation that lasted more than 9 hours, led by Captain Frederico Calderon. However, we're not quite ready to focus on the interrogation just yet, so we'll get there shortly. Following this taped interrogation, Juan David Ortiz was charged with 4 counts of murder, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, and unlawful restraint, and was held on a $2.5 million bond. The victims included Melissa Ramirez and Claudine Loera, as mentioned before, as well as 35-year-old Giselda Alicia Hernandez Cantu and 28-year-old Janelle Ortiz. All 4 victims were sex workers and murdered in a very similar fashion. Due to this case being one with a potential death penalty, and also due to the COVID pandemic, about 5 years had passed before the trial of Juan David Ortiz was set in motion. Before the trial began, the Webb County District Attorney met with the families of all 5 victims. Ultimately, he requested for the death penalty to be dropped Instead, they wanted to pursue life without parole for Juan. The main reason for this decision is that it somewhat simplifies the case and would potentially shorten the trial from a few months to a few weeks, which subsequently may also increase the prosecution's chances of winning the trial as well. On November 28, 2022, the trial of Juan David Ortiz began. The trial lasted a total of 8 days. In their opening statement, prosecutors said that Ortiz confessed to the murders, including the shooting of Janelle Ortiz, whose body investigators had not yet discovered when they questioned him.
Throughout this trial, we are going to bring you evidence. We are going to, yes, we're in Bexar County, but through the evidence, through technology, through photos, through videos, and through testimony, we will take you to that dark and horrible places that this happened. You will hear the evidence in his own words. I wanted to clean up the streets. And in Spanish he says, these people are these are dirt. Through the evidence, we will take you to those last moments. To those last moments of these women's lives.
Throughout this statement, the prosecution really pressed the notion that the evidence would speak for itself, and that they had a surviving victim who will be testifying against Juan. However, during the defense's opening statement, they would put forth the notion that their client was a broken man as a result of war-related PTSD, psychoactive drugs, alcohol abuse, and blackouts, and continued by claiming that his confession was coerced.
One of the things we would ask you to focus on is the investigation that the Webb County Sheriff's Office conducted together with the Texas Rangers. Together with the report writing, the lack of reports, the lack of protocol, and how they, just jump to certain conclusions. Now, we move to the interview, or the interrogation, more properly stated, of Mr. Ortiz. He tells him, look, I'm a war veteran. I was in Iraq. Several months ago, I started having nightmares. I started having post-traumatic stress disorder. I couldn't sleep. I went to the VA. And they gave him a bunch of psychotic pills. And he gave him the name. They're there somewhere. There's a bunch of them. He's under a lot of stress. He starts drinking. And then, yes, the issue of blackouts. But he actually, and by he I mean Mr. Ortiz, says, look, I've had blackouts. I'm broken. I'm tired. This is a defeated man. He's denying having been involved in these murders.
As it turns out, Juan was part of the Veterans Administration and was given medication for a post-traumatic stress disorder diagnosis. Many people with PTSD experience blackouts, among other symptoms. These blackouts may involve a dissociation from reality, or they may include flashbacks to a previous time in the person's life. Experts say that there is a robust relationship between the incidence of PTSD and elevated rates of anger, aggression, and violence. The prosecution then called Erica Pena to the stand in an attempt to solidify the evidence being presented to the jury.
Ms. Pena, good morning.
Good morning.
Can you please state your full name for the record?
Erica Isamar Peña.
Do you know why you're here today?
Yes.
Do you know a person by the name of Juan David Ortiz?
Yes.
Or David Ortiz? Can you identify him here in the courtroom? Or what he's wearing? You can please point to him. Do you see him?
Yes. In black.
In black? And from where you're sitting, he's seated in which chair?
In the corner.
In the corner. Okay. What do you know him as? What
did I knew him as?
Yes.
David was a friend.
Okay.
Erica continues to testify regarding exactly how she met David, how long the two had been friends, and then retells her sequence of events from that day. On cross-examination, the defense attacked the prosecution's star witness by bringing her credibility into question, throwing questions at her regarding her $300 to $400 a day drug addiction and how it may affect her ability to remember things clearly.
Now, back on October the 3rd of 2019, you were in a rehab facility when you testified in court. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And, you know, that's what, maybe 4 years ago? And today, are you in a rehab facility again?
No, I'm not in a rehab.
Okay, but you said you're on methadone.
I take methadone.
Okay, is that medically prescribed?
Yeah, that's medically prescribed.
Okay. And if you were in rehab back in 19, why do you need methadone today?
Why do I need methadone today?
Yes.
Because I would have my downfalls.
Okay. So I gather that the rehab wasn't successful back in 2019.
I guess you can say
Okay.
that.
Well, we know on September 14th,
Yeah.
2018, you claimed that you were with Mr. Ortiz.
Yes.
And according to your testimony, it was for prostitution.
Yes.
Okay. And we know, because you've testified, that you have a daily habit.
That I had a daily habit.
Yes, I'm not saying right now.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm talking either 2018, 2019, something like that.
Yeah.
And so your daily habit consisted of maybe sometimes up to $300 worth of heroin, black tar on top of that,
Yeah.
per day, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And about $100 of crack cocaine.
Yes.
You would agree with me that that's a lot of drugs to use daily,
Yeah.
right? Okay. And then, would it be fair to say then that you've been injecting yourself maybe for the last 10 years?
On and off.
On and off.
Yeah.
But at that time, you were still getting high regularly.
Yeah, but to the point where I know what's going on. I was high, but I know what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll assume every person that uses mind-altering drugs
Yeah.
claim that, right? A guy that drinks a 12-pack, he's going to go, hey, I know what's going on.
Yeah, I
He's
know
that,
what's
right?
going on. I'm alert. I'm still alert.
Uh-huh. I'm sure you were.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, I'm not trying to be offensive.
No,
but
it's okay.
Are you high right now? Somewhat high?
No.
Are you on the? You're not here totally clear-headed, are you?
Yes, I am.
Are you under the effects of methadone?
Yes.
Okay.
I
and
take methadone.
I'm sorry?
Yes, I do.
And-
I'm on methadone.
Okay. And methadone, in essence, is a synthetic heroin, correct?
Methadone is just it's to block any triggers.
Well, no. What it is actually is a synthetic heroin that is utilized to avoid.
Being argumentative with her, she's not, and that's not. This is not relevant questioning.
Well,
he's being argumentative
let,
with her.
let me address it this way. Ask a question because you're giving testimony instead of asking a question. You're explaining what that is. That you're not a witness on the stand. So
But
ask a
it's
question.
been asked and answered, Your Honor.
Although this defense attorney is simply just doing his job and trying his best to provide Juan with an adequate legal representation, there is still one word that best describes the feeling that a person may get while viewing this cross-examination: dirty. On day 2, prosecutors showed the jury the body cam footage from Juan being identified, chased down, and arrested, and had one of the Webb County SWAT team members, No Gonzalez, recount his arrest of Juan. Over the next 4 days, the trial focused on the 9-hour recorded interrogation, which we can finally view. The jury was first shown a segment of the interrogation footage where Juan explains his behavior to the detectives. He said that he had never been arrested in his life and proceeded to outline the same struggles that the defense had mentioned in their opening statement.
Why are we here? You were in the military también, ¿verdad?
8 years active duty, honestly.
Were you having any issues with
Yeah,
the military?
I got a PTSD. They put me on paroxetine, which is Paxil, for anxiety and depression.
Okay.
He doesn't want to write it down, but for Paxil, for anxiety and depression. They put me on Divalproex for irritability and anger.
Okay.
They put me on Trazodone for sleeping due to nightmares.
Okay.
They put me on gabapentin for migraine headaches. They put me on another one, I don't know the name of it, for that's the high blood pressure. And I was squared away, motherfucker, until I started going to the VA and my life went to shit. So I have never been arrested in my life. I have never had that. I'm sure you guys are with America. Going to the VA, my life got me here. They had me on this 12-week program where I had to go talk to a psychologist. I've seen a psychiatrist a bunch of times.
You don't know why you ran?
I went into the restroom at the gas station.
Okay.
I came out and I saw a trooper, like another trooper, and one that had his rifle. Put your hands up.
Okay.
You know, like, don't move, put your hands up. Put my hands up, and I go, sir, you're freaking the fucking crap out of me right now. I don't know what the fuck's going on. Okay. Sir, right now, are you the owner of that truck? Yes, my fucking truck. Don't fucking move! I'm like, God, don't move! He's all like, turn around! I turn around. And took off running.
When was the last time you shot this?
I don't remember, man.
Give or take?
Probably the last time I called, which was once a quarter. So I was supposed to call this coming Tuesday, so subtract 3 months from that.
The detectives continued by asking Juan when the last time his service weapon was fired. He insists that the last time it was discharged was months before, but the detectives aren't buying it. They ask him the same question several more times throughout the interrogation in hopes of Juan admitting to the murders. Most of this interrogation, however, is Juan sitting in the room alone, sometimes humming to himself, sometimes sitting with his head in his hands, and other times mocking the troopers who chased him.
Yeah, who's the trooper I smoked, man? The trooper couldn't keep up with me, dude. Tell him he needs to work out some more, man. 2 of them.
Leaving the suspect alone in the interview room for prolonged periods of time is a common technique used by officers as they conduct an interrogation. Although this has proven to be fairly effective, it is also somewhat controversial and frowned upon by some experts. This technique tends to increase the likelihood of confessions, but there are 2 negative side effects it can have on an investigation. It invites claims of duress. A frequent cause for a confession to be suppressed is the allegation that the interrogation was too lengthy, resulting in duress or an oppressive environment. Allows the suspect time to focus on the consequences. One thing that is not wanted in an interrogation is a false confession. When suspects are left alone to stew in their own thoughts, potential negative consequences of withholding a confession can weigh on them. This happens to lead to a skewed or false confession that doesn't reflect what really happened. There are some acceptable circumstances for an investigator to step out of the room, including regain emotional control. If the suspect draws an emotional reaction out of the investigator, it is likely a good idea to step out and compose themselves to verify a suspect's statements. However, in this case, everybody is calm, and the suspect isn't really giving any statements for the investigators to verify in the first place. After over an hour of Juan sitting in the room alone, Captain Calderon confronted Juan about Erica's allegations. Despite Erica claiming to have known Juan as a regular customer for the past 5 months, he responded with evasive answers, insisting that he did not know her.
You're very obviously not a bad person. We understand that you go through some stuff that sometimes other people aren't going to understand. And I'm asking you to explain some of the stuff that happened and why you feel like you need to keep referring to us like we should know this and we should know that. I don't know what you're referring to when you say that, but I do know you picked someone up earlier. That I do know. Wait, huh? I don't know where you picked her up, but I know you picked someone up earlier. Into your house. I know you took it to your house. You was able to describe your house, your address, the inside of your house, your backyard, describe you by name. But like we said, I mean, it'd be kind of hard to say, that's not my truck. Oh, yeah, on the video. Can you explain to us what happened in there? You were there. And you were there with somebody you knew. Somebody you picked up for, somebody you talked to before, somebody who knew you by name. Yeah. Say something got out of hand. A little bit of a disagreement in there in your car. And that's why we're here. So can we get to that? What happened? Was that person in the car? I don't recall anything. I'm pretty sure you do. And I'm betting that's why when the troopers, that's why we were looking for you. So we were looking for you because what happened at the gas station.
This went on for several hours. Juan continually denied any involvement with Erica, even when the investigators confronted him with items that she had left in his truck. When shown the pictures of the victims, Juan denied knowing them, crumpled up the pictures, and tossed them to the side.
You want to take a look at your victims on last one? No? No?
Yeah, I guess. How many rounds is this on that?
You tell me.
You tell me.
You're the one who did it. That's what she looked like before.
I have no idea if she's never seen it happen like that.
Never seen her either, right?
You're offending me.
I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
I don't care.
Not this one, right? Not the one that ran away from me today.
It's
Not that one.
Not even
The
that
one that ran out of your truck. The one you were driving around town.
Not even that one.
Yeah. We're gonna take those, so they're gonna give you some stuff to wear.
And after about 6 hours, Juan eventually began to break, asking to see a picture of his family and for his cuffs to be removed.
Y'all started, please take this off. I'm not gonna attack you.
Not done.
Good. Pick her up.
Mm-hmm.
That's this.
Daddy, I'm really bad right now.
Just explaining something, explaining something to me. I was trying to get down here. I'm really bad right now. Like, okay, let's go from. So we're going, start cruising. I'm gonna pay that out of
Some money to get something.
There's $20. The net day, Melissa,
Melissa goes in.
that was like roll, like they're in and out making 5 seconds. The net day sale,
She goes in and comes out.
this is Melissa. He's like, hey, wait.
Hey, dude, wake up, dude.
Wait, come on, get up.
Dude, get up. The dude.
It's been a while, but yeah, this guy know how to get done and what the dude, I don't care.
I dump her, and they're gonna say I did something to her.
They're waiting. No, but then Erica's probably with her. Like, dude. So I get 35 north and me driving. And then I'm just driving. I exited at the 18. It's not rest area.
Where the rest area is at.
But
Stop.
You
Can stop. I have to go.
with my friend Jeffrey.
So I go in, and you know that.
How much did you cut out an assault? Did that
She got out.
when it happened? You guys already know their story. Right.
You know, wake up the day with that.
I did not plan.
I know you wake up and you know what to. You know what? And you're after happy spring a moment.
That's the truth. They're wrong with them.
Did you pull her onto the truck or shoot her on the
She fell on her own. Then she got like. Where
the fuck are we, dude?
I
come there.
told you I'm cruising. I knew what's
Bitch.
wrong.
Are you a fucking idiot or what, dude? Are you an idiot?
You already know what happened. So, there, he's on, I think it was pictures. I got in my truck. and busted a U-turn. So I can Jeffrey still know like a 3-point. Yeah, I went back onto the big brother. Went back on 83. And I go straight to my house. I go to the way. It's in a shower. And back laid down. And,
Did anybody see you doing Roger? He was just you.
you never took your wife's truck and picked up. No, my truck.
Right. So the only time that you picked up these girls, you were in your truck?
Yeah. Erica knows how to listen to that.
Okay.
So she knows something.
Melissa had something on her. Do you remember what she was holding? Holding? Yeah, she had something in her hand. Do you remember what it was? No. It was a type of food or type of candy. Something like picked up for her, something she would have.
I bought her, she liked the Mexican, no, it's not Cheetos. What's that one? Taki. She liked the Mexican.
What about M&M?
No. The other one very
Did you honestly know it was coming? Or she didn't see it coming?
No. She was in a deep sleep, and then she woke up and she was just nothing off. Yeah.
And that's it. It's over.
Yeah. When she squat down to take her piss, she fell down. And I was paranoid as a motherfucker the next day. I was like, oh. And I really did get up and shaved everything, went to work. So then I felt bad. But then I told myself, I tried to convince myself, do the pickup, like, I was told you had 8 kids, but I'm not sure what it was. I was told you had 8 and the state has custody of them. And I was just telling myself, do this chick. I'm like, why are you shooting that? Because she has a bunch of kids, the state has them. She's on the street all day, every day.
You should not work with kids.
Said,
They get police
Listen, bitch.
there's no reason to feel sorry for her. I mean, that's what I was trying to, like, convince myself. And then I just played it cool and he wrote out. And then, I was continuing driving on time bed. And then this is where the monster came out.
The investigators just listened to Juan admit to executing 4 victims, all execution style, bodies left carelessly on the side of the road, and his reasoning was to clean up the streets. Naturally, investigators reacted by providing him with a burger, fries, and a drink.
Thank you, sir. You know what they need now? I'm working on that tape, okay? It's the one in particular, man. It's my kids are sitting on the counter in the kitchen. My wife's right there. It's that one in particular. The kids are sitting on the kitchen counter, and my wife's right there. Thank you.
An interesting phenomena amongst the true crime community is the fascination with suspects, criminals, and murderers alike being provided food. People often express in comment sections and forums how infuriated they are that a monster is being treated as if they didn't commit those crimes at all. However, it is important to remember that in the United States, along with most countries, a criminal suspect is entitled to humane treatment, no matter how heinous the alleged crime. If the suspect is not treated humanely, for instance if they are deprived of food and water, or if they are beaten either during the police questioning or while in a holding cell, it is most likely a violation of that suspect's rights. It is important for law enforcement to abide by these laws mindfully in order to avoid claims of duress, as mentioned before. At this point in the trial, it was day 5 out of 8. The jury just finished watching the interrogation, and now it was time for the cross-examination of the man leading the interrogation, Captain Federico Calderon. It was revealed that Captain Calderon did not tell Juan that he was being recorded during the interrogation. And at another point in the interrogation, Ranger E.J. Salinas said there are 2 sides to every story, and then asked Juan, "Are you willing to tell us?" To which Juan responded, "No."
And you know you're in custody right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are you willing to tell us your side of the story as far as what happened, or no? Okay. That's what I read your rights. Okay. Yeah.
Juan's attorney used this to claim that Juan's right to plead the Fifth was violated. But Calderon said that he did not see this as Ortiz invoking his Fifth Amendment right. The defense also pointed out that Ranger Salinas attempted to induce Juan to talk by saying that the district attorney was present and that he could put in a good word with the DA if he does.
Now, we have the district attorney's office right here, the DA himself. Okay. Now's the time, if you want us to put a good word in for you, you need to. What do you mean there's no word?
You could be, we cooperated with you. We talked to your wife like you asked us to. We spoke to her. She left next to me.
That's what you're doing, right?
What is she doing? She was worried about it. So she didn't know what was happening, and she wanted answers. And we told that she could hear from you later.
On day 6th, Dr. Corrine Stern, the chief medical examiner for Webb County, took the stand. 16 autopsy photos were presented to the jury. Unfortunately, the photos displayed to the jury are unable to be shown here on YouTube due to their graphic nature. However, the reactions from the victim's family, as well as the jury and the expert witness who is testifying, should be enough to fully understand just how horrifying of a state these victims were left in.
Would you please state your full name, Dr. Stern?
Yes, Dr. Corrine Elizabeth Stern.
And what is your occupation?
I am the Chief Medical Examiner for Webb County, Texas. This is what we call an identifying photo. This is after we've cleaned her up, and it's an ID photo of her face.
Now, I'm going to go back to your pathological diagnosis and start with gunshot wound of the jaw.
Okay.
We explained what you observed with that injury.
Okay. So she had a gunshot entrance wound. It was on the right side of the jaw in the mandible. That's the lower part of the jaw. So the upper part's your maxilla. This is the mandible, the lower jaw. So it was on the right side in the lower jaw. It was a round defect, and surrounding the entrance wound where the bullet actually pierced through was gunpowder stippling. That just means they're unburnt grains of gunpowder. Okay, so she had another gunshot entrance wound on the right side of the neck above the one we just described. It was also a round defect, and she also had
We'll go ahead and excuse at least a juror. You want to help him out? Can you excuse him for now? Out there, maybe. Yeah. We'll go ahead and excuse the jury just for a few minutes. Reminding us to discuss the facts of the case. He can be seated. He doesn't have to stand just yet. But everyone else can step up. If you want to go.
The court had to take a brief hiatus while tending to a juror that fainted at the sight of one of the injuries shown. But they were right back to it after regaining their composure. Dr. Corrine Stern was able to finish up her expert testimony without any further interruptions. On day 7, prosecutors played multiple jailhouse phone calls made by Juan, including several phone calls that the state says discredits any of Juan's claims of blackouts and memory loss at the time of his confession.
You see it over and over in the Bible, how he says, and even in the Bible says, that he has power over all the nations. I mean, literally, he takes control over everything.
So we all have a hope, right?
We have what is it?
Hope.
Oh yeah, when I pray to God and I tell him, you are my hope, like we are our hope. You are our strength. You are our hope. Like that's all we have. And at the end of the day, this is how I feel, and this is what I tell God. Like our purpose in life, first and foremost, is to worship Him and to praise Him. then the other stuff come into play. And my goal is at the very end, like the light at the end of my tunnel is when I am with him for eternity. So, I mean, he literally controls the whole world.
I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page.
I don't know, Steve.
On the same page. I don't see the point of going through the whole process. So.
Well, let's break down the trial.
Okay. Well, if we're all on the same page, then okay. I'm very concerned over the statement that was made. I already asked the attorney if he could try his best to suppress it. And I don't think he ever got a try to. So. Because the confession.
As you can see, Juan very clearly referred to the statement made during the interrogation as the confession. Although some may argue that this is no indication that he was in fact lucid at the time that the statements were made, this phone call does demonstrate some level of understanding of how damning his words may have been during those moments. Another call was about 30 minutes of Juan speaking to his wife and children, enjoying some playful banter despite his grim circumstances.
What did you and the kids doing?
Mommy, I want to be one of girls. I don't want to be a doctor, Daddy.
Why not? You promised me, baby.
I know, but I choose when I was what, remember?
So what do you want to do now?
I'm gonna be chef.
A chef?
Yes.
Promise, baby. You promised me.
Hey, Daddy, I still don't know. I still have a long time until I'm there.
I remember. Fine.
Yes. Before I see your pizza, he told me. Viviana. Okay.
Yeah, my precious.
I love you.
Although this interaction may be perceived as very wholesome, it's the reality of the situation that will always cast a dark shadow over top of these moments, transforming this call into something very tragic. Juan's defense team also went on to cross-examine Ranger Salinas, who helped obtain Ron's confession. It was noted that Juan told investigators multiple times that he did not want to make a statement, yet they continued to question him for over a 10-hour period, giving him nothing but water and chips until he confessed. If there was any progress made for Juan's defense, it was swiftly outgunned by the testimony of a firearms expert who also examined the evidence in this case.
After testing all 9 .40 Smith & Wesson caliber cartridge casings, you determined what exactly?
It's my opinion that the 9 submitted cartridge cases were fired by the H&K pistol.
Doing an analysis and evaluation on all 6 projectiles, which were what we learned to be fragments or bullet projectiles that came from the bodies of Melissa, Claudine, Janelle, and then projectiles that were found at the scene for Iselda. What was your conclusion after testing these specific items right here?
For those 6 projectiles, I determined, it was my opinion that they were fired by the H&K pistol.
The defense continued to suggest that much of the evidence presented was acquired unlawfully without a proper search warrant, and that it should not be considered by the jury for that reason. However, they were unable to make the same argument for the tire marks that were recovered near Claudia Luera's body. A forensic scientist believed that any of the 4 tires on Juan's truck could have left that impression on the ground.
What you're saying is they came from this kind of tire?
Yes, whatever the brand information was listed on the known tire impressions.
Okay. You're not saying it's this tire or any tire that was on that Dodge truck?
Correct. As far as I know, these tires were on a suspect vehicle, so all 4 of the tires have the same tread design, and my conclusion is that the question impression could have come from any of those 4 tires or any other tire with similar characteristics.
On the 8th day and final day of the trial, the family members of the 4 victims gave their impact statements. Joey Cantu, Giselda Cantu's brother, gave a heart-wrenching statement forgiving Juan for what he had done to his sister.
I've now had to live a life in which I've endured and suffered the murder of my mother, the murder of my father, and now the murder of my sister. It would be so easy to hate you. Too easy, but I've always abhorred the path of least resistance, and I don't hate you. I don't hate you at all. And I won't hate you, but I do hate what you did. Not only to her, but to all of us. And here's the irony. Roughly 26 and a half years ago, I stood where you now stand, accused and convicted of murder, sentenced to 40 years in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. I spent 22 years and 11 months of my life in prison from the age of 15 to the age of 38. When I was granted parole, the sister of my victim wrote me and told me that she forgave me for what I had done and that I should forgive myself as well. And now I find myself here in front of the person who killed my little sister. And I want you to know that I forgive you and I hold no ill will towards you, man. I pray that one day you find the peace that you have ripped away from all of us. You spoke of God's ability for miracles. Well, your miracle is that you get to continue living, to continue to see and hear from your loved ones while we no longer can. When in any other circumstance you would be facing a death sentence. And know that it was me, the brother of Giselda, who asked the DA to consider going without the death penalty.
As Joey finishes up his impact statement, the sisters of Claudine Luera and Janelle Ortiz followed with the same message for Juan, that he was forgiven and that his family would be kept in their prayers. The sister-in-law of Melissa Ramirez, however, was not so forgiving. She cursed Juan, called him a monster, and wished for his death.
Do you know how much pain you have caused to this family? Do you know how many times I wish for Melissa to show up to my home and see her and hug her and hear her voice again? I hate you for what you did, and I can never forgive you, nor do I think God will. You deserve to suffer in prison and go to hell. I still mourn for my sister-in-law. Even though it's been 4 years, I feel as if it happened yesterday. My heart is torn apart knowing that I won't be able to see her, but to visit her in the cemetery. Monsters like you don't even deserve to breathe, nor wake up to every morning. You are a turd, so take back those words you've said to these beautiful women. You deserve to die and suffer for what you did, and when that day happens, I will finally be in peace.
And after these victim impact statements, the trial came to an end. It was rather clear by this point that the prosecution had a quite dominating performance throughout the trial. And as they claimed in their opening statement, the evidence really did seem to speak for itself. However, closing arguments can sometimes throw a curveball into the jury, as all it takes is one clever statement to cast doubt upon one jury member to alter the entire outcome.
We have brought you all the evidence, and you are ready to render a verdict. You are ready to bring justice to the victims and to their families. So where does this roadmap lead you? It's going to lead you first to definitions, knowingly. I put up the entire definition, but I want you to focus on one word: aware. He is aware that his conduct is reasonably certain to cause the result. Intentionally. Focus on the desire to engage in the conduct or cause the result. And how do we know what desire is? Desire can be seen the moment somebody picks up a gun, wraps their finger around the trigger, and pulls. We've seen that. We've seen that in each of these scenes. 3 times that desire at Melissa's. 2 times that desire at Claudine's. 3 times that desire at Giselda's. And 1 final time that desire with Janelle. And now, defense is going to come up here. whether it's Mr. Perez or Mr. Fuchs. And they're going to come up here, and I suspect that they're going to tell you the same thing, that the statement was coerced, that the search was illegal, that there's just not enough evidence. But I want you, as you listen to them, to stay focused. Use your common sense and rely on your life experiences. And if you remember nothing else from what I told you, I want you to remember this. When they come up here, it's not about what they tell you. It's about what we showed you from that witness stand.
The prosecutor just told you that she knew we were going to come up here and argue that the search was illegal and the evidence shouldn't be admitted. Well, she's quite right, because she is right. The search is illegal, was illegal, and that evidence should not have been admitted for your consideration.
The state has to prove to you that he had the state of mind in the situation that he has that was not disputed, that he's taking, from February of 2018, this young man had an impeccable record, had served our country in Iraq, had seen horrible things in Iraq. They called him Doc. He saved lives over there. He came over here. He became a Border Patrol agent, was impeccable record, immediately rose up to the intelligence unit. Come February of 21, migraines, nightmares, post-traumatic, insomnia. And then all hell breaks loose from February of 2018 to September of 2018. I think you have the right to say, hey man, was this guy really had the ability? Was it really that he wanted? Regardless of what he stated, was it really a common scheme and plan? Did he have the capacity to do that? You have to decide. That guy, and then all these pills, and everything that happened at the VA, all because he couldn't find a primary doctor in Laredo because he had the primary in San Antonio. You really have to ask yourself, is this guy really a serial killer? Or did these things mess him up so much that no, he didn't have that capacity.
Fortunately, in this case, the defense seemed to strike out as their closing argument fell flat. And on December 7th, 2022, Juan David Ortiz received his verdict.
Verdict form. We, the jury, find the defendant, Juan David Ortiz, guilty of the offense of capital murder as charged in the indictment and as instructed in this charge. Signed by the presiding juror. This is your verdict, correct? Thank you. Mr. Ortiz, you heard the jury's verdict. You have the right to allocution, which means you have the right to make a statement if you wish. Okay, so they're asking for the jury to be polled, so meet the juror list. Well, I'm just going to call you by number from the back. Juror number 1, can you please stand and tell me, was this your verdict? In the front.
Guilty.
Juror number 2.
Guilty.
Juror number 3.
Guilty.
Juror number 4.
Guilty.
Juror number 5.
Guilty.
Juror number 6.
Guilty.
Juror number 7.
Guilty.
Juror number 8.
Guilty.
Juror number 9. Juror number 10.
Guilty.
Juror number 11.
Guilty.
And juror number 12.
Guilty.
Thank you. You may be seated. So, Mr. Ortiz, as I was saying, you have the right to make a statement if you wish. Would you like to make a statement at this time? No? Anything else?
Nothing for the defense.
Juan David Ortiz was found guilty of 4 counts of capital murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.